All right, folks, it's Friday. It's the second half. It is time for the All Bets Are Off segment with Jeremy Jerome Betz. What's up, Jeremy? How's it going?
Man, I am looking to survive a little bit of a storm here. We're in
Yeah.
North Carolina. We're getting the tail end of Hurricane Helene, I guess is what they're saying, coming up this way. But hey, I'm here and I'm ready to talk some Steelers football. As always, it's fun to do so with you.
Batten down the hatches. And Jeremy, how are you feeling about the 3-0 Steelers right now?
Man, I feel pretty good. I'm not going to say it's a finished product. I'm not going to say that I feel like they're a Super Bowl contender yet.
Yeah.
But I do feel pretty good about it. I think the steady improvements that we've seen week to week, that feels a little different than previous iterations of the team where a lot of their wins last year, I don't know if you felt the same way. A lot of their wins felt lucky last year, or maybe that they backed into wins, or that they
I could see
won the
that.
same way every time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily, you weren't seeing improvements week to week as it was going on. So, and the wins came more sporadically. You missed out on the fast start last year.
Right.
So this feels a little different. Now, whether that's sustainable, we'll see. But it does feel like this Pittsburgh Steelers team has an identity early in the season. They have a unit that's not just teetering on elite, but is extremely elite in that defense. And last year, I felt like they were teetering on it. They gave a lot of big plays up. They weren't as good against or like keeping teams' yardage totals down. The scoring was good, but this year it's kind of the complete package on that side of the ball. So to me, it feels a little bit more complete, a little bit more arrow pointed upward rather than this is who we are and this is how we're going to win all year long. I think the Steelers can continue to get better this year. That's kind of the different feeling that I have between maybe 2023 and 2024.
That's fair. That is fair. And I have a different feeling than this 3-0 start compared to 2020 even.
Yes.
You know, I
Yes.
mean, it was just, this is a different vibe, and I'm not sure what it is, but it's just a different vibe. But I want to ask you a question. I was approached by, it was a radio station in Indianapolis, and they said, "Hey, would you be willing to come on and talk Steelers Colts?" Sure, why not? So I was on Thursday with them, and the guy asked me a question, and I did my best to answer it, but I'm going to ask you what he asked me and see if your answer meshes with mine.
Okay.
He said, "I understand that the Steelers defense is really good." He said, "But at the same time, if you had to try and pick a way to attack the Steelers and to exploit that defense, what would you do?" And so I gave an answer, but I want to
Okay.
hear your answer and see if it's the same as mine. How would you exploit the Steelers defense?
Man, it's tough.
It is. That's what I
It's
told
tough to come up with an answer, but I think it's and I think this will tie into when we talk about the game later as well, but I think it's explosives down the field.
Okay.
And I don't know how you get there though, right? That's the question, is like, is it play action? Because run games haven't been working against the Steelers. Is it you just get more speed out there than the Steelers secondary can handle? I don't know if you can wait long enough to get there because of the pass rush. So it's hard to actually come up with something that is like a foolproof way to attack the defense. And
Right.
obviously foolproof would mean, there's a major flaw within this group that you can exploit. But I do think big plays down the field. We haven't had an offense come in yet that has that ability necessarily to attack that way. The Colts kind of do. The way they've been scoring has been big plays, big passes, get behind the secondary. AR-15 makes some incredible plays behind the line of scrimmage and then launches the deep ball in backyard football style. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe you're going to have to get extraordinary play from your quarterback to beat the Steelers down the field. But I think of the ways the Steelers have, or of the offenses the Steelers have seen so far, the Colts offense is the one to me that has the ability to garner explosives down the field more so than the others that we have seen so far. If that is a weakness that has not yet been exploited on the Steelers defense, we might see it this weekend if the Colts can put it together enough. But I think that's how you would have your best shot of beating this team, is by beating them down the field.
Okay, so that was a little bit different than what I said. I did say
Okay.
that, I don't want to tax Joey Porter, but he can get handsy. And so if you go with the Joe Flacco, who is ironically on the Colts roster,
Yeah.
um, if you do the old heave and pray, you might be able to get some DPIs on him. But my answer was, I thought about it from, Antonio Brown used to say, who's the candy bar? He would talk
Yeah.
about the other defensive back. Who's the guy that we are going to try and get the mismatch? And then I thought, okay, so Tom Brady and not Anthony Richardson is the opposite quarterback. What would he try and do? How
Yeah.
would he try to manipulate the defense to get a matchup? And I honestly, the only matchup that I think that would be advantageous is Beanie Bishop.
Mm.
If you go multiple against the Steelers and get them into their dime package, get them light. So this is a Landon Roberts is off the field. Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen are probably on. You got Beanie Bishop, who is still an undrafted rookie, who's very untested. I would try to go after him.
Yeah.
And let's see what this young guy can do until he proves that he can, hey, you can try that stuff, but it's not working on me. If Cam Sutton was out there, that's a different story because he's a
Yeah.
veteran. He's been around the block. He knows how to play that position. This isn't Cam Sutton. He's not coming back until week 9. So that was my answer. What's your thought on that?
I like it. Well, I mean, I don't like
it.
Yeah, I like your answer. I don't like that is something that could be exploited. But you're right. He is easily the least experienced player on the defense. You have to like what you've seen out of him so far. I think he got up in the run game a few times last week. That was pretty nice. I haven't seen him like stand out as making plays on the football when it's in the air necessarily. So yeah, a guy like Josh Downs could be a huge player in this game against Pittsburgh. But let me take your thought process and move it a step further here.
Sure.
When you talk about getting the Steelers light, right, and putting that nickel dime package on the field, maybe the way the Colts could attack the Pittsburgh Steelers is by doing that and then running the RPO game with Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor, who is as explosive as it gets out of the backfield, and he's been playing well. So spread that defense out and then try to run the ball at them and see if that front four with Peyton Wilson, Patrick Queen on the field, if that's enough to be able to stop an explosive running game where you've got to take care of the quarterback as well. So maybe that's the way the Colts could attack this team. And then you get the safeties moving up a little bit, and then you can attack down the field.
Right.
That is, I think, a very sound observation by you. And I would agree with that maybe attacking, spreading them out, getting them light, attacking Beanie Bishop could be the way to do that.
Let me just say that I followed it up on the interview and I said, listen, I know that might sound simple, but man, you are talking about a really good defense. I mean, a really good unit. I said, and even if I'm trying to think of weak points, like Beanie Bishop in the dime is like the only one I can find. Because Dante Jackson has been great. Deshaun Elliott has been great. Joey Porter Jr. is looking really stout. The front seven, get out of here. And they were asking about Nick Herbig. I think he's going to do just fine. If I were them, I'd run at him, make him prove that he can stand up like Alex Highsmith does in run defense. But we'll see. But we'll get to that game here in a second. Let's go through our AFC North picks. Man, our AFC North picks have sucked, but I'm glad they've sucked because that means that they're losing. Like we said, the Giants are going to lose. Browns will win. Nope. We said the Monday night at home, Cincinnati's going to beat the Commanders. Nope. This has been fantastic. So we're going to keep picking the AFC North to win, and let's hope they keep losing. So let's start off at 1:00 on Sunday. The Bengals go to Carolina, and Andy Dalton gets a revenge game. This is hysterical. Jeremy, what do you think about this one? By the way, Cincinnati's giving 4.5.
Yeah, I love the revenge story factor. I think that plays into this. But I do think the Bengals win, and I think it's because the offenses look fine. I don't think that there's any issues there on the offensive side of the ball. Joe Burrow's passing the ball down the field. He's hitting his big targets down the field. The defense just hasn't been able to stop anybody. And the Commanders took advantage of that to the tune of 0 punts and 0 turnovers. And I mean, Cincinnati did the same. So I think the defense comes around a little bit on what has been a Carolina offense that really has been nothing until you got Andy Dalton in there. And now Deontay Johnson is nursing an injury, and Adam Thielen won't be playing this week. So you're starting to see some of the weapons dealing with some injuries there in Carolina. So I think Cincinnati wins. I'm going to say they cover too, but it wouldn't be much more than a touchdown in my opinion. I think it's not a blowout necessarily. It might be close until the Bengals pull away at the end.
This is about a must-win Week 4 game, as a Week 4 game can be must-win. Listen to what Cincinnati has after this game. They host the Ravens.
Yeah.
They go to the Giants. They go to the Browns. They host the Eagles. That's their stretch coming up. So if you lose this game, if you lose somehow, some way, you lose to this banged-up Andy Dalton-led Panthers team, I'm not about to say stick a fork in them, but I'm really close. I would be really close.
It's pretty close to goodbye at that point.
All right, let's shift gears to Sunday at 4:25. The Cleveland Browns, coming off that loss to the Giants, go to the Las Vegas Raiders. This is an interesting game. The line is Las Vegas is giving 2, so they like Cleveland. What do you think about this matchup between 1-2 teams?
I mean, from a odds perspective, I guess the sports books have it right. To give Cleveland just a little bit of an edge because their defense is better. The roster overall is more well constructed. But this is kind of a matchup of two middle-class AFC teams. I think the Raiders kind of fall into that middle class a little bit more so than maybe we thought they would, even though they just lost to the Panthers. You didn't know what to expect out of Andy Dalton. I'll give him a pass for that week. They did beat the Ravens. I mean, you can't take that away from them at this point yet. Max Crosby playing out of his mind, has the ability to affect a quarterback in Deshaun Watson who has been struggling. So in an effort to see what I could envision being a really messy season for the Browns, I'm going to say the Raiders win this game. And I think that it's going to be close, but I think they pull it out in the end. And I think they pull it out because Deshaun Watson just can't get it done. And I think you have a real conversation if you're Kevin Stefanski this week about going to a different quarterback, Jameis Winston. And I think it's getting to that point. And there's a lot of talk about it. There's a lot of speculation about it, I guess, right now. But would Stefanski go that route? I think there's a good chance he could if Deshaun Watson is the continued reason why they're losing. He's got plenty to point to last year where you can win with somebody else. So I think he's got that going for him.
Absolutely. And the defense has struggled at times. And that's been the biggest surprise. Let's look at what the Browns have coming up after the Raiders game. They go to the Commanders, not as easy a win as everyone expected early on in the season. Then they go to the Eagles. Then they host the Bengals. Then they host the Ravens, and then the Chargers and Saints. It's not going to get easier, and that's before this first Steelers game. So it's not getting easier for Cleveland. So we'll see. I think that the Raiders win as well. Let's go to the Sunday night game, which is going to be a really good game. The Bills 3-0 versus the 1-2 Ravens in Baltimore, M&T Bank Stadium. And right now, the line is Baltimore's giving 2.5. That surprises me with the Buffalo Bills and the way they've been playing. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is a home boost to the Ravens, I think. And also the fact that they won last week against Dallas. Maybe the sports books kind of view them as back, more or less. But, man, it took every bit of those 60 minutes to hold on to a massive lead in that game against a Dallas team that really couldn't stop them early on, but then turned on at the end of the game. And it was just a crazy, weird game. That was the only one I got right last week. I thought the Ravens would win in a cornered animal game. They did. This is not the case anymore, and Buffalo's playing out of its mind because Josh Allen is playing out of his mind. And I think this Ravens defense was Mike McDonald last year, and they don't have him this year, and that's a problem when you come up against a Buffalo team that can beat you a myriad of ways. I think Buffalo wins this game and sends the Ravens into a 1-3 record and lots of question marks heading into week 5.
Yeah, because when you look at their point totals, the Ravens have scored 20 or more points every week this season. It's their defense that has let them down, surrendering 27, 26, and 25 points in all 3 games this season. So very un-Raven-like. I like the Bills as well. I'm not sold on the Ravens. I'm not sold on the Ravens' offensive line. I'm not sold on the defense, as you mentioned. I like the Bills here. So let's talk about the game that everyone cares about. Pittsburgh Steelers, 1:00 kickoff in Indianapolis against the Colts. Right now, the line is the Steelers are giving 1.5. at Indianapolis, so on the road. The over-under is set at 40. If you want to talk money line, Steelers are minus 125. Indianapolis is plus 105 on the money line. What do you think about this one? What's your score prediction?
Yeah, man, this looks like it lines up really good for Pittsburgh, matchup wise. And I have concerns about Anthony Richardson times Jonathan Taylor out of the backfield. What are they going to do to make things interesting and to keep the Steelers defense honest? And I do have concerns down the field, like I mentioned. I think that you might see a couple big plays out of the Colts this week, and the Steelers have to settle it down. But one of the things I wanted to mention about the Steelers here, their second half adjustments this season have been incredible. Like you saw against the Chargers, they were picking apart the team over the middle of the field a little bit with Justin Herbert and just kind of hitting some of those and moving down the field slowly, right? The Steelers eliminated that in the second half. And you could point to Justin Herbert being out, but they were doing that when he was in too. So to me, the second half adjustment factor for the Steelers defense and the fact that this Colts defense can't stop a nosebleed in the running game, the Bears being the one exception, and they can't run the football at all. So it's Steelers' strength meets Colts' weakness on both sides of the ball. This is the one though, Jeff, where it's like, this is a good matchup for Pittsburgh. Are they going to look ahead to Dallas on Sunday Night Football next week? Are they going to get ahead of themselves and drop to 3-1? I don't want to predict it. I'm not going to predict it here, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. I'm going to say the Steelers win 23-16, and I think it's going to be close late again until the Steelers kind of pull away.
Okay. I made a bold, I called it my not so bold prediction on Twitter this week. And I said that I think Minkah Fitzpatrick gets off the schneid. He didn't have an interception last year, the entire year. I think he gets his first one. Anthony Richardson has turned the ball over. He's thrown 6 interceptions in 3 games. So he is prone to turnovers. And he's going to take a risk, and Minkah might be waiting on it. He might just be, hey, go too high and let him read the quarterback's eyes and see what he can do. But I like the Steelers in this game. I think that this is a game where I would be shocked to see. I would bet almost, I'm not going to bet my house, but I come close to it, that the Colts are going to load the box and say, if you're going to beat us, we realize what our numbers are. They give up over 170 yards a game on the ground. You're not going to beat us on the ground, so you're going to have to throw it. And so I think the Steelers are going to come out and they are going to throw it. And I think they're going to attack the middle of the field, and they'll get Pat Freiermuth involved with what we saw a little bit of last week against the Chargers. And I think they're going to move it that way. It'll soften them up. And I think the Steelers win 23-13. Okay. 23-13. So a 2-score lead. I think they're going to eventually soften them up to be able to run the ball. I think Najee will have a good game. Cordero Patterson should have a good game. And this is where you want to see Arthur Smith be the OC that we thought he was when they brought him in, as someone who can really coordinate an offense, can do in-game adjustments. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and if I can quickly give a bold prediction as well for this game, I'm going to say that TJ Watt and Nick Herbig combined for 4+ sacks in this game.
Oh my God. You know that he's only been sacked, I think, twice the entire season. No, 4 sacks. He's been sacked 4 sacks. That's it. So he's not sacked a lot. That's interesting.
The Steelers will double that total by the end of, or I'm sorry, they'll match that total in this one game. Yeah.
As much as I would love to see TJ get the 100 sack mark at home in Pittsburgh, I just want to see him get the monkey off his back, get it over with. He only needs a half a sack for crying out loud. So, all right, very good. Jeremy, what's coming up for you, man?
Yeah. So, if you missed it last night, the Q&A, and I that one it's always a lot of fun. We'll have a guest on talking Steelers football. So if you missed that, check it out wherever you get your podcasts. Go over it and check out the Draft Dynasty podcast. We recorded that yesterday. It came out today, so check that out. And then stay tuned. I'm going to be writing an article about the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you missed my post-week 3 power rankings, go check that out as well. And stay tuned, man. There's a lot happening, and hopefully the Steelers can get to 4-0. Let's do it.
Absolutely. Jeremy, thanks for your time as always, man. We'll talk next week. Take it easy.
You too. Have a good one.